Oh my God. Seriously, you can't make my life up. I'm going to put a link in the description box below. Otherwise, go to my community section, what I just was talking about in the Succubus Incubus video regarding mental health. Remember I was saying it seems to be vaccinated people that seem to be the most perceptible to use the weapons and stuff to make people like act out and do crazy things. I've just stumbled across an article where they've proven that it seems to be vaccinated people. One of the side effects of being vaccinated seems to be psychosis. Just proving me right. So when I take all of this to court, the doctors and the cops and they're not going to stand a chance because I'm a scientist. So my work speaks for itself. Unlike a medical professional, although I wouldn't call them medical professionals, I would call them drug dealers. They don't cure anything. All they do is try and understand things and find a medication, to stop the symptoms that they don't like or understand or agree with. But I'm a scientist, so I have to deal with facts. I have to study. I have put in decades, thousands upon tens of thousands upon millions of hours of study and research with actual physical people, with actual physical clients. I've dealt with real people in real life with mental health issues and that, and then I've done the studies myself and I put together the occult sciences and the ascension sciences as a result of it. I know what I'm talking about because I'm a scientist. I have to do the study and create the evidence and put the case together in a way that, when I present it to the clients or I present it to my listeners or followers or whoever it is that I intend to help in the future, like the evidence speaks for itself. Whereas like a doctor is fed the information. They're handed books and they have to revise it and remember it. There's no going off to do 20, 30 years of study into the paranormal or supernatural for them. They just take what they're given in a textbook, remember it, tick certain boxes and get a degree for it. Whereas I have to start from scratch. I had to start from the age of 13, 14 years, well, actually, technically, 4 or 5 years old when I was watching my sisters be able to make things levitate and, watching my sister shapeshift and things like that, like physically her face changing form. It like before I was even old enough to look over the dinner table. I can literally remember standing at the dinner table on tippy toes, having to look over it, watching my sisters doing what they were doing, fascinated by it. By the time the music box story came out after my sister died, like I had already lived a good 14 years of the supernatural life because it's my family. My life is practical magic, real life practical magic, but not made up nonsense stuff. Like it's real. So when I got into the occult sciences, when I properly started studying, the paranormal stuff that was happening around me and my family around 16, 17 years old, I already had a pretty good understanding of it. I just needed to put a science to it because there wasn't a science that existed that explained what it was I was witnessing and learning about and seeing on TV and all these shows and movies and that. I was born with a brain that needed to understand the world I was living in. So I know what I'm talking about. I will match any doctor in the courtroom because they don't go off and learn things on their own. They are fed the information and then pass that information on. Whereas I'm a scientist, I have to create the information. I have to do the studies and put it all together. It's just, I can't do maths. My physics doesn't rely on maths. Maths does not work with my physics. So I have to use language and talking and writing in that. It's the only way I know how. But because these medical professionals and judges and cops and that they're so far out of the realm of existence of the comprehension of the power of the psychological mind. They're Neanderthalic. They're like their teaching and their understanding of the power of the mind, of the biometric frequency that comes off the human mind or the mammalian mind, in correlation to the way the universe works. And we have been able to prove using science that the universe is directly connected energetically to the neuropathic pathways of the psychological mind of the mammalian mind. We've been able to prove that. I can take all of this to court and they're not going to be able to argue with me. And now this information has absolutely proved me right. So now not only am I going to be able to defend myself and my science and my Māoridom, my indigeneity, I'm going to be able to defend all the girls that I was locked up with that didn't deserve to be in there, and everybody who's ever been put on medication and put under mental health watches and that by a government and by a medical system who have to admit they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to mental health. I know exactly what I'm talking about because Ascension Sciences and the occult sciences, that's my science. These are sciences that didn't exist before I came along. And because of that, I almost got murdered for it twice and hounded by governments and that because I'm trying to save children so that they never get to the point as an adult where I was forced to medicate and almost murdered for it, tortured, blew my stomach open and everything. My body, my stomach is never going to recover from the torture that I was forced to endure simply because the NHS have absolutely no understanding or clue of what is actually out there because they go by textbooks and not by experience. I had one doctor swear to me black and blue, you'll be back here within 2 weeks not being on that medication, because the nurses were fighting to get me off it because they knew I didn't deserve to be in there. They were, well, some of them were fighting tooth and nail to get me set free and get my name cleared. And it was the last doctor who listened, who said, right, okay, then fine. But the doctor before him, the one that was screaming at me, said, you know, who the hell do you think you are, blah, blah, blah. I have the power to keep you in here, you know, forever, blah, 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 sort of thing. Like, he was so dumb. He said, you keep saying you keep going into anaphylaxis, but if you were going into anaphylaxis, you'd be dead. Like he thought that you go into anaphylactic shock and then you die. I literally had to present with him, well, with the nurse who was helping me fight for my freedom, from the NHS's own website of the symptoms and signs of anaphylaxis, with the most extreme case being, of course, death. Now, I collapsed when I was in hospital. I lost oxygen to my brain and I actually passed out. I was choking and the saliva was so thick in my throat, I couldn't breathe through my throat, and the tears were running down my face and I was choking, and I couldn't breathe out my nose either because of the saliva was so thick. I passed out. I literally collapsed in the hallway. I got told to stand up and get myself back in my room for the sake of my own dignity, and I literally, between the time I stood to the time I hit the ground, and I have the time stamped in my notebook so they can look on the CCTV cameras when this goes to court, I collapsed in the hallway and stopped breathing probably for a good 2 seconds. I had blood in my vomit and I got gaslit and told, oh no, that was food, but it wasn't possible because I was being starved. I was going up to 5 days continuously without food and stuff. Also that these doctors could try and prove that they were right over me. And now because I've just got the most perfect case to present against all of them when I take them all to court, because I'm suing the NHS, I'm suing the government, I'm suing, you know, the American Army, Air Force, all of them for the hacking, and Elon Musk and like all of them, Keir Starmer, for his continued, because I'm trying to rescue children, you know, the human trafficking and all that, because my sons and I were a victim of a police and government cover-up because we were trying to fight for our right to get justice against the pedophile that targeted my 7-year-old and blah, blah, blah. All of this was done to shut me up. And now all this evidence is coming out to prove I was right about everything, not just about what was done against my sons and I, but now my science is being proven right as well, and they're not going to be able to. It can't be denied. And because I just did that Succubus Incubus video, saying all of that, and then this thing popped up on my X, so I'll use that as the cover shot for this video. I'll put the link in the description box below. But it turns out I'm right about everything. God, he loves to have the last laugh. He loves winning these arguments with a good deal of comedy.